Greetings, metalheads. Welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George, and today I'm back with another new release review. Well, new-ish. Been out for a couple of weeks now. Talking about the latest re-recording from the Cavalera family, in which they have tackled the second album from the legendary Sepultura, Schizophrenia. So, to give you a little bit of background, Schizophrenia was the second album from Brazilian thrash metal legends Sepultura, 1987. You know, the scene was in pretty good health at that kind of time, but certainly Sepultura were in very good form. Over the years, things changed. There were lineup changes after the Roots Bloody Roots album. Max Cavalera, vocalist and guitarist, frontman, left the band and went on to do many other great things, such as Soulfly, and also in more latter years teamed up with his brother, drummer Igor Cavalera, and former Sepultura drummer under the name Cavalera or Cavalera Conspiracy. So what we get here is Max alongside brother Igor, joined by Max's son, Igor Amadeus Cavalera, and who's on bass here, and then we have Travis Stone on guitars. This lineup has re-recorded the second full-length album, but previously they tackled the debut EP, Bestial Devastation, legendary debut EP from Sepultura, and then the debut full-length album, Morbid Visions, as well. Both of these are brilliant. These came out last year. Absolutely fantastic re-recordings. Just classic material. Absolutely legendary kind of death thrash. But I will say, I was actually more skeptical about the re-recording of Schizophrenia by this new, invigorated Cavalera lineup. I was not skeptical about these re-recordings because these originals, so the original recordings, are very primitive, very raw. You know, it's mid-80s. Actually, it's the kind of recording where it screamed out for being remixed, remastered, or re-recorded. But that, it sort of made sense in my mind. But with Schizophrenia, because in my mind this album is an absolute classic, it's not bad in terms of its sound quality. It sounds raw, it sounds primitive, and you know, it does sound a bit dated, but it's got a magic to it. It's got its own sort of charm. It's got its own character. And I've always gravitated quite heavily towards Schizophrenia, as well as Beneath the Remains. I absolutely love that classic Sepultura material. Absolutely love it. So this is the original album, where our lineup consisted of Max Cavalera, of Paulo Jr., of Andreas Kisser, the first album to feature Andreas Kisser on guitars, and then we've got Igor Cavalera on drums. A youthful Sepultura. But it's a classic album. It's got a classic charm to it. Yeah, production might not be amazing, but I don't think there's that much wrong with it. And it's packed full of classic Sepultura tracks. Very heavy. This is thrash. 100% this is thrash, but there's a death infusion in there as well. It would easily satisfy fans of Death and Morbid Angel, you know, the classic US or Florida death metal bands. But I was a little bit skeptical because of that. Having said that, now that I've actually had a chance to really get to grips with the Schizophrenia re-recording, I absolutely love this. I think it's fantastic. What's really great is that Max and co have really honoured these original songs. They haven't tried to mess with it and change stuff. They are just essentially re-recording it, playing it with modern sound, modern qualities, but it still sounds raw. It sounds angry, explosive, energetic. It sounds authentic. and it's a worthy tribute to the original material. And actually, I will say, no, it's not quite the same. There are differences, you know. Max's vocals, he sounds different to how he did in 1987, you know, nearly 40 years ago. That's to be expected. And there are other sort of subtle differences in the fact that, you know, you've got different musicians in some respects, and it's just a different time. Of course, there are going to be differences here. But this is a brilliant, respectful re-recording of those classic tracks. And just revisiting it has just increased tenfold my love for Schizophrenia, definitely. Kicking off with a pretty weird, kind of creepy intro, we then get hurled into one of the standout tracks from the album. From the Past Comes the Storms, which is a ripping, thrashing, ballistic attack. It's freaking brilliant. Some seriously good riff work there. And on a track like that, you know, it's a classic statement of Sepultura and their aggression, brilliance in thrash. It's got to be done, and it's got to be done right. And Cavalera have absolutely done it right. I mean, they're at an advantage, of course, because you got 50% of that Sepultura era lineup in the band. So you kind of expect it to be good. But it is really good. It is really, 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 very good. So a killer way to start a ripping album. Then the onslaught continues with To the Wall, which is, again, thrashing and flailing and head banging with majesty. Absolutely freaking love that one. That is just a crunch machine. Then we've got Escape to the Void, another absolute thrasher and another fan favourite. Definitely a brilliant, very memorable freaking beast of a track. Inquisition Symphony is a very interesting one because it is a long instrumental piece, but it's really good in its original form. You know, on the good old Schizophrenia, it sounded great, but here it sounds powerful. It sounds musical. It sounds brilliant. Absolutely love it. It's one of the best sort of instrumental pieces in thrash. You know, other than maybe like the Call of Cthulhu, there aren't that many excellent thrash instrumentals, and Orion. So maybe there's a few, but a decent medley, a real decent musical thrash noodle. Screams Behind the Shadows, another brilliant one. Septic Schizo with its sort of punk injection there. You know, there's certainly really memorable riffs, and it's really hooky stuff within the riffs. There's not a huge amount of sort of chant along choruses or, you know, big orchestral sections or anything like that you can really, you know, get behind. It's just unrelenting thrash, but really talented musicianship and really good considering, you know, they were young when this material was written. Really good songwriting. Brilliant. Abyssimo, sort of an interlude piece before we get Torn Apart by R.I.P. Rest in Pain, which is a fantastic track. And the album closes out with Nightmares of Delirium, which is a proper hair standing on end absolute belter. Frickin' masterpiece. I love this album, and this re-recording sounds great. The sound quality is fantastic, and it really does pay homage to this legendary material. Absolutely amazing. Frickin' love it. Really good stuff. So the Cavalera brothers have done justice to their own songs, and this is a really nice sort of high quality package. Actually, it's not like a nice digi fold out, this, that, and the other, but you can tell with that amazing artwork as well, where it's been really revived and brought back to life. It's a good package. It's certainly a very good tribute to this classic album. Absolutely. Cavalera brothers and son and friends have, you know, taken this classic stuff and they have been respectful with it. they have maintained its brilliance. 100%. Fantastic, fantastic album. So, that begs the question. We've had the debut album, Morbid Visions. We've had the debut EP, Bestial Devastation. Now, we've got a very fitting and just version of Schizophrenia. Will the Cavalera assembly stop here, or will they bridge the next album? Will they dare to play with Beneath the Remains, an absolute classic, and to be honest, one of the freaking heaviest albums from Sepultura. Absolutely freaking love that. Of course, over the years, Cavalera Conspiracy or the Cavalera Brothers have toured playing. I believe they did Arise for whichever anniversary it was, 30 years. They've done Roots Bloody Roots. You know, whatever you love that album or hate it, whatever you think about it. You know, big selling, big hit for Sepultura. So they've done that. They've played that stuff live. Are they going to carry on with the re-recordings? I personally think that it would be silly not to, because if you're going to go through the trouble of re-recording and almost making that material theirs again, not Sepultura going currently, you know, the end is in sight for Sepultura as they're doing their final tour. Whatever. That, you know, Max has said recently that there's no plan for Sepultura reunions or anything like that with Cavalera Brothers again. So in my mind, it would make sense for Cavalera to carry on and make that material theirs. You've done it with the debut EP and the first two albums. Get Beneath the Remains re-recorded, give it to the metal-hungry masses, bring that material into the 20th century. I can't even remember what year it is. Bring it into the 2020s. Give it a little bit of spotlight, a little bit of a revision, and just keep going, because I would love to hear that. I'd also love to hear a re-recorded Arise, maybe even Chaos AD, which is a great album. It's not necessarily my favourite of that era. My least favourite of the Cavalera era is Roots Bloody Roots. So I'm not bothered if you don't want to do that, but certainly Beneath the Remains. Beneath the Remains, that's what's needed. That's what the world, the thrash metal world needs. Cavalera, in the modern age, giving Beneath the Remains some serious love and giving it some light. Anyway, I digress. Schizophrenia, if you're a fan of the original from the Sepultura album from 87, then you are in for a treat, because this is respectful. They haven't tried to mess with the songs and change stuff. They've kept it true to the original sound, and it really does work. Rest assured, it really does work. It's a good re-recording. It's re-recorded and it's done right. So, my friends, what are your thoughts and opinions on Schizophrenia? What are your thoughts and opinions on Sepultura, on this absolute classic? I think with musicianship this good, I'd be surprised if there was a lot of negative response. You know, Max Cavalera, he might not be the greatest vocalist in thrash. He may not be the greatest guitarist in thrash, but he's a really good frontman. And I think Max still sounds good. He sounds different to what he did in 87. He still sounds good. Guitar work, though, I mean, it's definitely worth mentioning that Travis Stone, he's a fantastic guitarist. And Max's rhythms there is absolutely fantastic. The guitar section is just brilliant. You know, Igor Amadeus, fine bass work there. You know, I like the fact that you can actually hear the bass as well. It's not an Injustice for All situation. We have prominent bass, which is good. And then Igor, one of the best drummers in metal. Igor Cavalera, what an absolute machine that guy is. An absolute beast. And I love his drum sound on this album. This re-recording. I loved his drum sound on the original, but it sounds absolutely fantastic here. And it was a real prominent feature, in my opinion, of Morbid Visions and Bestial Devastation, those re-recordings. Igor's drumming. Red hot. And just brilliant riffs all round. Absolutely fantastic. But yes, what are your thoughts and opinions on Cavalera, Schizophrenia, original and re-recorded? What are your thoughts on this whole topic? Interested to hear thoughts and opinions of others as always. Thank you very much for watching, my friends. Check out Schizophrenia. For me, this is easily a 9 out of 10. Freaking brilliant. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. It's all very much appreciated. Thank you for the support. Do check back soon for more reviews and recommendations of all the good heavy things. Until next time, take care of yourselves, thrash like maniacs, and stay heavy.